In 2007, a device arrived that did not just change how we communicate, it changed how we think, feel, and want. Today, we're exploring a profoundly familiar human moment. I want you to just picture a hand, right, reaching across a desk for a glowing screen, without a single conscious thought. It's an action we perform automatically, dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day. But what's actually happening underneath that almost invisible, everyday movement?
Well, for millions of years, the human brain evolved to survive in a physical world that was completely defined by scarcity, patience, and slow, deliberate action. But now, as we dive into this chapter of our exploration, we find ourselves looking at a completely unprecedented story. We're witnessing our ancient human biology interacting directly with a modern machine. And this isn't just any machine. It's one meticulously designed to bypass our conscious limits and speak right to our primal nervous system.
This brings us to a fascinating concept, the illusion of choice. Because you see, the phone resting in your hand right now, it's not simply a neutral piece of glass and metal. It is a carefully structured environment designed from the absolute ground up to shape your daily behavior.
And there's a really profound distinction we need to make here between a tool and a behavioral machine. A tool is an object you control. Think of a hammer. You pick it up to do a job and you put it down when you're done. But a behavioral machine, it influences you. Imagine your device like a hidden control room sitting behind a busy, vibrant market. From the street, you just see the stalls, the bright colors, the people. You feel totally free to wander wherever you like. But behind the scenes, unseen architects are quietly tracking your every step. They're adjusting the lighting, placing goods exactly where your eyes naturally fall. The market feels completely organic, but every single thing you notice has been deliberately engineered.
Which leads to this critical insight. The smartphone was not designed to connect you. It was designed to keep you. It doesn't persuade you to stay through logical arguments, right? It persuades you through the invisible, quiet forces of friction and reward. It eliminates the effort required for certain actions, making them completely frictionless, while subtly making other choices much harder. And in the process, it delivers these tiny, calculated bursts of relief exactly when your nervous system unknowingly craves them. So, how exactly does this hidden loop work? How does friction and reward actually play out in our daily lives?
Well, the device operates on a highly specific, endlessly repeating behavioral loop. It starts with a cue. Now, that could be a physical vibration, a flash of light, or honestly, just a sudden quiet moment of inner boredom. Next comes the check. You look at the screen because your brain has this deep evolutionary drive for closure. Third is the reward. Occasionally, sure, it's useful information, but far more often it's simply something emotionally activating. And finally, learning occurs. Your mind actually begins treating the device as the geographic location where relief lives. It becomes this rapid-fire method for removing tiny psychological discomforts. It's very much like unconsciously scratching an itchy tag on the back of your shirt until the irritation finally fades.
Which brings up a genuinely fascinating question about our modern reality. When was the last time you were bored, and simply stayed bored? Think about a modern office building that has those motion sensor automatic lights. The moment darkness even begins to fall, the lights instantly click on, and eventually, you just stop noticing the transition altogether. Your phone acts exactly like that for your inner emotional life. The second an idle moment appears, the device instantly switches on a new state of stimulation, completely eliminating the pause.
This perfectly illustrates the dynamic of craving and closure. It reveals a deep psychological reality. We aren't just seeking positive rewards, we're actively seeking relief.
We love to tell ourselves that we pick up our screens because we have a specific, productive task in mind. But human desire isn't always some fully formed, rational command. Often, it's really just a directional force. It's this vague, restless energy whispering, "Resolve this uncertainty right now." A notification acts like a half-heard sound in another room, or maybe the sudden, warm scent of fresh bread drifting out of a kitchen. It physically tilts your emotional energy toward the source before you even consciously realize you're making a choice.
Just notice how the visible, physical action hides the underlying desire. You might be checking your screen because you're genuinely curious, seeking out new information. Or you might be feeling deeply anxious, desperately seeking some form of certainty to just calm your nerves. Maybe you're simply bored, looking for a momentary spark of stimulation. Or perhaps you're lonely, quietly hoping for a sense of connection. The physical action of scrolling your thumb, it looks exactly the same to anyone watching. But the internal emotional state driving that movement is completely different. The device is a chameleon. It seamlessly adapts to whatever form of relief you happen to be searching for in that exact moment.
And because this chameleon is always present and endlessly ready to adapt, it has brought about the end of waiting. It has fundamentally rewritten our daily human rhythm.
You see, before the era of the smartphone, waiting was simply waiting. It was empty time. Now, waiting has been entirely filled with thousands of micro-responses. And when pauses are instantly filled, we lose these profound cognitive capacities. We lose the ability to tolerate ambiguity, which, by the way, is the exact space where creativity is actually born. We lose the quiet patience required to stay with a complex, developing thought. We literally forget how to simply notice our own mood without instantly trying to edit, numb, or distract ourselves from it. That vital, empty mental space required for deeper human thinking to form, it is quietly and continuously evaporating.
So we have to ask, is your phone serving your aims, or is it reorganizing them? Are you serving it? Human behavior isn't usually changed by massive, sweeping forces or these huge, dramatic events. It is changed by tiny, repeated frictions that constantly interrupt our continuity of thought. A single notification badge is infinitesimally small, but hundreds of thousands of them over a lifetime, that is enough to alter the entire course of a river.
And that altered river leads directly to changing who we are. These repeated micro-responses bypass our conscious decision-making and weave themselves deeply into our very self-concept.
Think of it this way. A single footstep across a meadow does not make a trail, but repeated walking over the exact same route eventually does. Like a deeply worn path in dry grass, repeated exposure creates this compelling illusion that the desire to check your screen is yours alone. To save precious energy, your brain actively lowers the biological cost of taking action. It quietly turns what was once a complex sequence of conscious choices into an invisible, automatic reflex.
And eventually, this automated wanting transforms into identity. If that glowing rectangle is the primary place where you continually experience a sense of relevance, your very identity becomes linked to your constant availability. You start telling yourself, I'm someone who always stays updated, or I'm someone who responds quickly, or I'm someone who simply cannot ignore a message. This profound shift explains exactly why conflicts around screen time feel so emotionally explosive. We aren't just managing our daily schedules anymore, are we? We are fiercely defending our identity.
Which brings us to the ultimate realization of this exploration. The device forces us to look in the mirror at its true role in our modern lives.
Ultimately, the smartphone is not the villain here. It is a mirror. What it reflects back to us is a human brain that was simply never prepared for this unprecedented level of infinite access. The technology didn't invent our vulnerabilities, it didn't create our weaknesses, it simply found the profound meaning and desire that was already present inside us, and it amplified our ancient evolutionary wiring for closure, connection, and relief.
If humanity evolved through waiting, effort, uncertainty, and anticipation, what happens when those barriers disappear?